A very good morning and warm welcome 10th standard for your science and technology part B. We have completed with lesson number 5 towards green energy, and now we shall start with lesson number 6, animal classification. Okay, so let's begin. Now you can see different types or species of animals on your screen. Some are herbivores, some are carnivores. Yes. So before we start, we all are aware that how organisms are classified. Okay, you have different basic characteristics such as presence or absence of nucleus, then whether it is unicellular or multicellular, whether presence or absence of cell wall, or what is the mode of nutrition in them. This all you have studied in the lower grades, right? Now we have also studied the classification of living organisms. Majorly, they are broadly classified into prokaryotic and eukaryotes, right? We come under the eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are those which have well defined nucleus, whereas prokaryotes do not. So in prokaryotes, you just have one kingdom, that is kingdom Monera. Whereas in eukaryotes, further you have unicellular organisms, multicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms, you just have kingdom Protista. Whereas in multicellular organisms, you have one with the cell wall and one those without the cell wall. Now one with the cell wall, those are your plants. In that also you have further two bifurcations, autotrophs and heterotrophs, right? What are autotrophs and heterotrophs? We have studied in lower grades. In autotrophs, you will be having kingdom Plantae. Yes, very well known to you all. In heterotrophs, you will be having kingdom Fungi. And under without cell wall, yes, we all. Kingdom Animalia. So you all have five kingdom. Kingdom Monera, Kingdom Protista, Kingdom Plantae, Kingdom Fungi and Kingdom Animalia. Now this we will not go in much detail because this we have studied in standard 7th and 8th if you all remember. Okay, so just recall, or you can just collect the information. Now there are variety of plants and animals around you. Let's focus on animals. Now even on the screen you can see some animals are very small, tiny, microscopic. You need to see them with the microscope. Some are too big, quite huge. Yes, you can see it from a very far distance as well. Some you will find on land, those are terrestrial, whereas some you will find in water throughout, those are aquatic. You also have some those who can live in as water as well as on land, those are amphibians. Some can crawl on land, right? And some you have fly in air. Yes or no? Here do you have huge variety? Yes, we do have. So there is a huge diversity in animal kingdom also. Now, whatever studies have been done, there is estimated number of approximately 7 million animal species on our planet. Now, obviously, it is not possible to study each and every species, right? So, for easy study and understanding, groups and subgroups of animals have been formed. Now, depending on what, their similarities and differences. So, it would be very easy to study such a vast variety of animals, yes or no? Yes. So, in this lesson, we are going to study the huge diversity of animals under whatever group they are being included. So let's proceed now. First, let us look at the definition of animal classification. It's formation of groups and subgroups of animals depending upon similarities and differences, right? Now whatever similarities are there, those will be grouped under one, and those with difference, so they'll be grouped accordingly, right? So before we actually go to look at the groups, let us look at the history of animal classification. How did this classification of animal thing actually concept actually came up? Now, different scientists have tried to classify the animals as per their research and study. First was Greek philosopher Aristotle. Okay, now you need to remember the scientists, because in objectives, like from within the textbook, you can have these as your questions. So Aristotle was the very first one to perform this animal classification. Now he classified the animals on various criterias like body size, then habits, then what are the habitats. Okay, just two or three characteristics were used by him. So this was also termed as the artificial method. Okay, then further, new developments happened, new researches were happened. Science is a field wherein research and development continues uh, all the time. So then, different scientists came up and new criterias were being set in. Then after Aristotle, after this artificial method came up, it was followed by various scientists such as Theophrastus, Pliny, John Ray, and Linnaeus, and many more such. Okay, then later on, gradually, your natural system of classification came up, which was followed. Natural system of classification is based on various criterias like body organization. How is their body actually organized? Okay, how it is differentiated. Then types of cell. Okay, what different types of cells are there, that we'll be studying in detail. Then chromosomes, okay, the number of chromosomes. Then biochemical properties, evolution, etc. Okay, and then this natural system of classification was always in practice. This was used by Dobzhansky and Mayer, and recently Carl Voss has also proposed the animal classification using the natural based, right? So, with time, if you observe, new changes took place, new researches were done, and based on the natural system of classification, you are going to study the animal classification lesson. Now, what are the benefits of this animal classification? Why it is done? Then it makes your study of classification very, very convenient. Okay, when you have similarities and differences known, when you have these characteristics with you, so you can easily understand it. Now, this you will understand as we proceed with the lesson. Then study of few animals from a particular group will help you to understand about that particular entire animal group. You did not take each and every member to study. If you just have 2 to 3 samples, then those will give you a perfect picture or perfect idea of what that particular group you know uh, looks like, or what characters are being present in them, or what characters are absent in them. Then it also gives you an idea about the animal evolution. Now, animal evolution, obviously, that we are not the first ones to uh, come on the planet. Okay, it was unicellular organism, and then gradually, because of the evolution, you had multicellular organisms. So it also gives you an idea about the evolution. Then easy identification with great accuracy. Okay, now easy identification I told you before also. Then it helps to understand the relationship of animals with other living organisms, right? We have studied food chain, food webs. Okay, in previous environmental lessons also we have studied how animals and humans and plants are connected to one another. How we follow relation of give and take. How one is dependent on another. Then it also helps to understand the habitat of each animal and its exact role in the nature. Everyone on this planet has one particular role to perform. So this study will also help you understand that. And lastly, it helps you to understand various adaptations shown by animals. Which animal is adapted to what particular region? What is their mode of nutrition? What kind of food they eat, right? Now, the characters of polar bear will obviously will totally differ from the animals that are living in and around your area? Yes or no? So how it is differentiated? With this help of these all characteristics, and this is how your animal classification is of so many benefits to you. Okay, I hope till this I am very much clear to you all. Now let us look at traditional method of classification. Now traditionally, that is previously, before your this natural system of classification came up, the animals were divided or grouped depending on the presence or absence of the notochord. Now notochord is basically that provides support to the body. Okay, now you had non-chordates and you had chordates. Now it is clearly given on your screen. Non-chordates were those which did not have notochord or absence of notochord. So they were grouped into the category of non-chordates, and those who had presence of chordates, who showed presence of notochord, they were grouped under chordates. Okay. Now, what is notochord? Notochord is a long rod-like supporting structure that is present on the dorsal side of your animal body. The dorsal side, that means your back region. It keeps the nerve tissue isolated from remaining body. So gradually the nerve tissues will develop into your nervous system, and then this is how they'll be protected. So also this notochord provides support to the body of a animal. Okay. Now look at the picture. You'll be able to differentiate between the nerve cord and notochord, right? Now you can see what major four characters were there in your traditional method of classification. Body support. Those who did not show presence of notochord were grouped into non-chordates, and who showed it, they were grouped under chordates. Now respiratory organ, the animals those were grouped under non-chordates did not show presence of pharyngeal gill slits. Now gill slits you have seen in different types of fishes, and those who showed the presence of pharyngeal gill slits or lungs, which were much more developed, they were grouped under chordates. Now I hope you all can tell that who are we, non-chordates or chordates? Yes, we are chordates. Then presence or absence of nerve cord. If cord was present and it was on the ventral side, then those were grouped under the non-chordates. And obviously in chordates the nerve cord will be present, and it would be on the dorsal side, as you can see in the image above the chart. And lastly, heart. If heart is present in the non-chordates, it would be on the dorsal side, and if in obviously in chordates you would have presence of heart, it is on the ventral side. Now what is ventral, what is dorsal? You can touch your own body just to figure out which is the dorsal and which is the ventral side, right? Your heart is on the ventral side, your nerve cord is on the dorsal side. So I hope you'll be very much clear with this. So let's move on to next. Before we start studying animals, okay, of chordates and non-chordates, let's just look at the phylums of non-chordates first. We have 10 different phylums in non-chordates, where the animals are being grouped as per the criteria they fit into. Your first phylum is Protozoa, second Porifera, third Coelenterata or Cnidaria. Okay, C is silent in Cnidaria. Fourth phylum is Platyhelminthes. Fifth phylum is Aschelminthes. Sixth is Annelida. Seventh is Arthropoda. Eighth Mollusca. Ninth Echinodermata. And 10th Hemichordata. Now, one very important thing, students, is you cannot mess up with the order of these 10 phylums. If Porifera is at the number 2, then you cannot write it at the number 4 and Aschelmantis as number 2. No, you cannot do that, because gradually how the animals evolved, that has been studied in this. Okay, what organs were not present previously, and then to adapt into the surroundings, what changes happen in animals, and then how different species are were born. This all is studied step by step. So protozoa might have the animals which were not that highly developed as compared to the animals in the phylum Mollusca. So you cannot change the number or order of these phylums. You will have to remember as they are given in the order, right? They are on the basis of the development and the evolution that has taken place. Okay, so just remember this, and the names are pretty easy. As we start studying each phylum, every phylum has a meaning behind their name, so it will be easy for you to understand and remember. Okay, next we have chordata. Now all the chordate animals are grouped together in a single phylum. Okay, in non-chordates you have 10 different phylums. Here you just have one single phylum, that is chordata. Now this phylum is further divided into 3 subphyla as Urochordata, Cephalochordata and Vertebrata. Subphylum Vertebrata is further divided into 6 classes. Class 1 Cyclostomata, Class 2 Pisces, Class 3 Amphibia, Class 4 Reptilia, Class 5 Aves and Class 6 Mammalia. Now here also I would like to tell you once again that you cannot mix up the order of the subphyla or even the class. Again, they are based on the same criteria, the development and the evolution that has taken place amongst the animals. Okay, now here I have an idea, how you can remember this order of these classes. Just remember a name, Param, Param. P Pisces, A Amphibia, R Reptilia, A Aves and M is Mammalia. Now again you will be confused with the Amphibia and Aves. So first after Pisces evolved were amphibians that can live on land as well as on water. Then came the reptiles that survive on the land, and then your aves gradually which started flying in the sky after the dinosaurus era. Okay, so here you have a name Param, a abbreviation Param to remember. From that you can remember the order, but you cannot mix them up. You can create your own ideas to remember the names in that particular order if you all want, no issues. Now let's see what's next. Now till this, whatever classification we studied was in practice till a new 5-kingdom classification system was introduced by Robert Whittaker, wherein all the multicellular animals are included in kingdom Animalia. This we have studied in lower grades. Okay. Now this system of classification is based upon some criteria like body organization. How is their body organized? Then body symmetry. How is their body divided? Body cavity, germinal layers, is their body segmented or no, and many more such criteria. So based on this method of Robert Whittaker, we would be studying this new system of classification. This I explained you before, while studying the history of classification. So first criteria is grades of organization. Now we have studied that body of animal is made up of multi-million cells, right? Now here in a multicellular organisms, we all are aware and we have studied in 9th standard that different cells are responsible for performing different functions in our body. But whereas in unicellular animal, body is made up of single cell and all the functions are performed by that same particular cell. This you can directly relate to amoeba. Okay, the digestion, digestion, every process is done by that particular single cell. Now, body organization of this unicellular organisms is termed as protoplasmic grade organization, right? Before that, just look on your screen. You have been given how gradually the grade of organization is goes on increasing. First, protoplasmic grade, wherein unicellular animals have been grouped, where the one particular cell performs all the functions of the body. Then, cellular grade organs, tissue grade organisms, tissue organ grade organisms, and organ system grade organisms. Now, this is how your grades of organization have been studied and they have been put into this order. Now let us see, I told you about the protoplasmic grade organization. Amoeba, paramecium are some examples of that. Single cell performs all the functions of the body. Proceeding to the cellular grade organization, a higher than protoplasmic. Here, the tissues are not formed. Okay, so their body organization is cellular grade organization. There are multiple cells, but tissues are not formed yet. So, they are grouped under cellular grade organization, your phylum Porifera. And one of the organism from Porifera is Cycon. This will be studying further. Then we come to next grade higher, cell tissue grade organization. Cell tissue grade organization. Here the tissues are formed, the cells come together to form a group of tissues wherein they'll be performing the functions of the body. So those animals are grouped under cell tissue grade organization. Your example is Cnidaria phylum and jellyfish is one of the organism. Now if you go back to the phylums of non-chordate, first you had Porifera, then you have Protozoa, then you have Cnidaria, right? So here when you are studying the body organization or the grades of organization, you will recall at the very first you had animals from the Protozoa. Then you had animals in the second grade, that is your cellular grade organization, you have animals from Porifera to study. In the third grade, in your cell tissue grade organization, you have a phylum higher, that is Cnidaria. So this is how evolution has taken place, okay, and the animals have become more and more developed as to the previous ones. Clear? Then you have tissue organ grade organization. Here the name itself suggests a group of tissues are formed. Tissues are organized to form some organs, but some complete organ system is not formed. Okay, so those are your tissue organ grade organization. Then here you can have flatworms. Now flatworms belong to your phylum Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes is on number 4, a higher phylum than Coelenterata, right? So this is how students classification is being studied. The last one is organ system grade organization. Here your organ systems are developed and they perform different functions of your body. Example, crab, frog and human, as you can see on your screen, right? So the very first criteria of animal classification, grades of organization, is very much clear. We shall move to next, that is body symmetry. Now, in any imaginary sense, if a body of any animal is cut through the imaginary axis of the body, I repeat, imaginary axis, sometimes it may and in many cases it may not produce two equal half. Okay, now depending upon this property and this criteria, there are different types of animal body. We will look asymmetrical body, radial symmetry, and bilateral symmetry. Now asymmetrical, clear that there is no symmetry, there is no exact half, there is no particular fixed bifurcations that you will be getting. So here there is no any such imaginary axis of the body wherein through which we can get two equal half. Very common example is your amoeba and paramecium and some of the sponges. Coming to radial symmetry, in this type there is an imaginary cut that passes through the central axis but through any plane of the body. You can see the picture of the organism on your screen. That will give you exact two half. Starfish is your good example. Now in this case, there are 5 different planes which will pass through the central axis of the body through which you can get two equal half. Okay, that is your radial symmetry. You can see the 5 different plane. Okay. And the third one is bilateral symmetry. In this type of body, there is only one imaginary axis of the body through which you can get two equal exact half. And here the organisms are insects, fishes, frog, birds, human. Okay, now that doesn't mean you will imagine an axis on your own body or someone else's and you will start cutting through it. Please don't do that, or keep drawing lines. Please don't do that. It is just for your understanding, and you can just imagine, or you can see videos or pictures on Google for better understanding. Okay, so I hope I am very much clear till now. It's very easy to understand. Just listen to me and go through the textbook and the points given in it. You will easily understand it. So it's time up for today. We shall stop here, and the lesson is little lengthy but very interesting. We shall continue it next time. Till then, keep studying, keep revising, stay safe, stay home, and take care. Goodbye.